Good evening, everyone. In Belarus, it's already evening, but I hope that the majority of you are still fresh and able to enjoy our next session. There are two opposite thoughts in the industry. On the one hand, we think that product management is the most attractive and fascinating profession. On the other hand, we are afraid that it's so exhausting that you live the life of your product, but not your own. So let's find out the truth by living a day of product manager life together with Mike Korenugin, product manager at PandaDoc, and Nikolai Chesalin, product manager and information architect at EPAM. So guys, the main and first question to you. At what time does your working day usually starts?
All right, Nikolai, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It depends, but I live in California, so Pacific time zone, and these days, not much travel. So these days, my regular day starts 5 a.m., 6 a.m. That means that at this time, I potentially could have a meeting in my calendar.
Wow. Yeah, that's serious. No, for me, it would start maybe like as early, the workday would start as early as like 9 or 10 a.m. Because I'm in Minsk, it's typically would just end later.
Oh, you're lucky. So just a reminder to our listeners that you can put all your questions in our Q&A section, and we will discuss it during our session. And the next question to you guys, could you please share a day in your life as a product manager? What are you doing usually?
There's a whole bunch of things. I guess any day would still start with, reviewing the metrics of the company and specific features that we're launching and the stuff that we've chosen as key results for this quarter. So that's typically the start, just using Tableau and Amplitude. Then I'll just spend maybe like 15 minutes to half an hour just to review the plans for the week, quarter, and this day. Then I'll just proceed to have a whole bunch of dailies, with our leadership team, with PMs, with a bunch of teams, development teams. And then I guess where more meetings appear, I would typically have like at least a few meetings with our customers every day, syncing with other teams, making sure that we're aligned in what we're doing and why we're doing this. Often I would spend some time just revising our strategy and metrics, just analyzing research that we did in the past, or just some recent findings and looking for opportunities to build something new or improve what we have and align that with vision. And then I guess a great part of my day is also like just one-on-ones, mentoring the team.
How many time meetings have in your calendar?
I mean, I'm using Clockwise, so I know that figure better than I probably should, or really it's at least 30 hours a week, often 35, 40, and I'll have probably like 10 hours of focus time in somewhere in between.
Thank you. Kolya, how your day looks like?
I'll start a little bit different. First of all, I don't have like a specific time frame that I'm working from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. I can say that my work and my life blended, and I have like typically full calendar of meetings, and some of these meetings require my high dedication than others. In some meetings, I just participate to understand what's going on. In parallel, I can do some other activities, but most productive and things that we need to resolve any issues, problems, or make some decisions. I try to run these meetings before the noon of my local time, and I try not to invite people to the meetings if it's not necessary. And one of the things that I try to practice to minimize the length of the meetings, if I'm the owner, I try to be very cautious in terms of how much time other people will spend with me. So if I can combine things in like 5 minutes and I just need to make sure that everyone will be present, 15 minutes, something like that. If I start meeting like for 30 minutes or even an hour, typically it's some kind of a workshop with some activities and some significant amount of participants. Another significant part of my day, it's work basically with the products that I'm involved in, testing, playing with the products, validate some ideas. I spend a lot of time working with the data, not just some metrics or analytics about the data, but data that helps me to make decisions or generate ideas for new features or how we can do this. So I can say that in terms of work, my day, it's a communication, producing, and also self-education and mentoring.
What information do you usually use for ideation of new features? Is there anything that you can just advise?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of sources. Obviously, we use market research info, like just maybe some of it is open, something you can purchase. Competitor research, we use just direct customer feedback and deep interviews to understand just overall the customer workflows and the potential gaps in those workflows that we're not covering. Obviously, data. I mean, just data, behavior data, and close loss analysis. And we also have a system of record for all of the feedback of all of the sales success and customers in the same place. So that's also a source of inspiration.
Thank you.
My turn, right? First of all, I just want to remind you that a lot of things that we're talking today will be shared on the platform, like links to books, tools, etc., etc. So please check out later. Well, I will try to define some classes and some examples of sources, not just for data, but some kind of inspiration. Depending on the products that I'm working on, sometimes it's find the perfect way to implement, to pack things, especially if it has some UI, what could be the best user experience. And I try to observe similar successful products, even if, let's say, I work, just for the sake of example, on a product for education, and I see that my auditory is very similar to people who work with games, for example, and things that they like, I potentially can apply in my product. If we're talking about some foundation technologies, I spend a lot of time learning what's going on inside the world, because you can work a lot, spend a lot of effort on something that already built by some company, and you don't need to use outdated things just because it's in-house. For example, just recently, Microsoft conference took place, I believe it's last day today, or they recently finished Microsoft Build, and they presented a number of great things that I'm going to use, like first, easy to use GPT-3 implementation and many other things. So I always keep an eye on the technologies or similar products that related to the things that I'm working on. And in terms of data, I use different data sources, and I also do a lot of experiments. For example, I'm not coding in a standard sense of this word, so I don't program in Java these days, but I still use functional programming languages like Wolfram Mathematica, for example, just to validate some hypotheses and connect data from different sources. And many, many other examples. We will just probably posted this.
Thank you. We are talking about the data, and I think, Mike, you especially will like the next question. Data-driven or data-informed approach, which is the best?
I mean, it's not like I like or I don't like. I just think that well, maybe it's a strong opinion, but I just don't think that solely data-driven is something that will drive you to success, because data can also be unreliable often, and there's also vision. There are things that are not that you cannot put in data. So I think data informed is the only way forward, meaning that you need to rely on data to make decisions, but it's not the only input and should never be the only one.
And I totally agree here, because one of the shortcuts and pleasant shortcuts how you can get new insights and ideas, talk with the community, collaborate. I used to have a chance to work with different companies, and informal and in an informal way, participate in different conferences and meetings. I still do this just online, but sometimes it's much more productive to spend 30 minutes with a person who already done tons of research and ready to share with you some insights. So if you know the right persons in your areas, you can save tons of time, and you already have a validated theory, what will work, what will not work, and so on.
You described a lot of activities that you are doing during your workday, but what is the most exciting and most interesting thing that you like working with products?
Well, there are a lot of things, so many. First of all, I just love, as a person, I just love starting new things in general. So whenever anything new comes up, I get excited. That's the first thing, no matter what it is, most likely. And then when it comes to like specific product research and product activities, I just often obsess with UX and you know, just making sure that this button behaves the way people would expect it to, and that most people can find where it is and how it and understand how it would, what action would be produced when they click on it or something like this, is really critical to me. But it also leads to a lot of suffering when you need to strip down the solution to get to something that's reasonable and in the budget and maybe something that you can launch with. Yeah, that's really hard. And then data is something that I spend a lot of time with overall. I just like playing with it. I've majored in math and statistics, and I just overall just like it as a thing, looking at numbers and playing with numbers, trying to get a different perspective.
Spend a lot of time. Does it mean that you like it?
No, it doesn't. Spending a lot of time doesn't mean that I like it, but I do like it, and I do have an opportunity to spend a lot of time on this. So it's a win-win situation.
Okay, thank you. Kolya, what is
I try to limit myself. When finally that you're working on for a long period of time has official production date, and more important, after some period of time, like a week or months, you receive the positive feedbacks or very constructive negative feedbacks, which is also helpful. But you can receive feedback, oh, it's still full of bugs, but we love it. Please, can we participate or contribute in something? So when you see that your effort, your purpose means something to other people, bring the value, it's amazing. I remember one of the solutions that I've been working on many years ago, it was in healthcare, when I saw emails from end users, how easy for them just to schedule the medical exams and other things, it was amazing. In other great moments, it's when you have a problem, like real challenge, and you're finally able to solve it. And finally, one more thing that I want to mention, then you find out how to minimize things, ideally to eliminate some functionality and still bring the value. This is a like aha moment when you said, yeah, finally, what way we should do this at all.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you just thinking about the feedback from the end users, and yeah, I think that it's the most exciting moments in the life of a product manager. And the next our question is, how do you stick around problem, but not the solution?
I mean, that's a tough one, obviously. And I've seen myself, getting too deep into the solution when you forget why you started doing this, when you get carried away into like, okay, and we could do this, and we could do that, and all of this. That happens, obviously. And the best way that I found for myself and for my team to avoid this is, well, whenever we start any kind of initiative, we start with the problem and who we do it for and why we do it. And so every single time you come up with a new thing, you just try to see, is this the absolute best solution? Is that thing required for the customer, or is it just something that we like? That's the question, I guess, that you need to ask yourself every time.
Have it ever been with you that you started with a problem, then you prepared some solutions, start to improve the solution, but forget about the problem?
No, when it comes to improvement, no. Nick?
Yeah. Great.
I saw a number of times when people solve the problem, but not the problem that they really need to solve. And this is very important when people try to substitute like the foundation why you do this. It could be very similar. It could be confusing, and for many people, it could be presented like, yeah, it looks like a solution, but in reality, it's not a solution for the thing that we solved. And one more thing that I want to add here: when you work on something, very important not to be in love with some of your ideas and some of your solutions.
Mm-hmm.
If you become like, oh, this is the best possible thing, you fail for a number of reasons. Most likely, you're not the smartest person in the world or in your team. And second, you waste time, because more important to validate and go to the next.
Thank you. The next question, has it sometime happened with you that you run out of product ideas, and what did you do in that case?
Is it possible to run
out
of product ideas? I don't think it is. I've never been in this situation, and I've never seen a product manager that run out of ideas. To be honest, it's always a problem of abundance, not of scarcity.
Koля, what about you?
First of all, yes, it's very hard to find the limitation of ideas. And one of the most important things, how you can do a threshold very quickly, instantly. I believe after some years of work, you came to this. But I want to put ourselves in the situation when we could face such a problem, because we could have a number of strict limitations. Then all your beautiful ideas, they don't fit. And you try again and again, and you see, like in a game or something, like error doesn't work here. And in general, when I face the problem that I don't know how to solve it, I don't know how to solve in the right way, I typically take a small break just to regroup and rethink the situation. Obviously, I will check with colleagues, with people who might help with this, but very often just to put something on a hold helps to rethink the situation from a completely different angle.
Yeah, I would add this, that I think that we had similar situations when we did have really tight restrictions, meaning that, okay, we want to do something very small to experiment on this specific metric, and that, okay, and if you're limiting yourselves with something really small in a very specific area, then yes, you may run out of ideas that match the criteria. But that's kind of the essence. If you run out of ideas in one area, you move on to another. That's why you don't work on the entirety of like product funnel at once. You've picked an area. If you think that you've run out of the low-hanging fruit ideas, you just move to another where you can make an impact, I guess.
Great. Interesting question. What do you think are the cons of product You just see that you have this ability not to like this idea that you're doing, so you probably not like understand why you don't like your profession.
Well, I can talk about, for example, if you're a product manager, your participation in formulating the product strategy is not too big. But then when you're a manager of product managers, your participation in doing the product work is very limited. And so whenever in whatever the position you are, you will always you never will be doing everything on your own, which I think for some people is important. It is important for me. So that thing for sure, like you never will be able to do everything on your own. So meaning you never will be able to do something perfectly in that sense. And also in the sense that you'll always have limited resource and you'll have to tear down, like what Nick said, you don't have to love the solution, but you always do. And you'll have to tear down what you created to make sure that it works and it matches the criteria that you set in the very beginning. And also, I guess, work-life balance is tough.
So still we have this problem in the product management.
I guess, yeah, everyone has this type of problem.
I will try to add something that wasn't mentioned. First of all, yes, I agree, and this is a very precise definition in terms of where you are in your career path. At what moment, once you reach some top level in organization or in terms of your product, even you have your own limitations. But for me, one of the concepts, I believe, I believe many of us face the situation when you spend a lot of effort, dedication, and the thing that you built was cancelled, not because it's bad or market is not ready. When it was cancelled and you don't have any power to do anything with it. This is because for you, it's what is a product manager? In some way, it's like CEO of the company, but you don't have a power of the CEO, right? Very often. And when your key stakeholder have a power just to cancel entire thing, this is a very sad moment for me.
And it's really similar to our next question. What is your
No, yeah. let me add to that. I guess one more thing that's also really tough, at least for a lot of people, is getting used to saying no so often. You know, we talked about how you have so many ideas, and those ideas very often would come from people around you, from people on your team, from people on other teams in the organization, from your customers. And you know, these are all, most likely, most of these ideas are amazing. It's just that they are not right in this moment, in this specific moment, given your priorities. And you have to say no to great ideas all the time. That's I guess the worst part, or one of the bad parts.
You have a special box where all the great ideas are lying just till the best moment.
Yeah, that's what backlog is, you know.
Great. So the question is, what is the biggest failure in your PDM career, and what is the biggest success?
Well, there's a ton of failures. I guess in the previous company, the biggest failure was to decide. So we let's say we launched a successful MVP, got some pretty good metrics and good reception from the market, some early MRR. But then we decided, because it was a company that pivoted from another direction, and we had like a similar product, we decided to build a full scope based on that legacy solution, which was like I guess the worst idea that we could make, which kind of pushed us back in terms of development for like, I think at least half a year or a year, which led to a lot of opportunities lost. That was one of the worst, I think, decisions ever made by me.
Yeah, first, it's not so bad to have many failures, as a matter of fact. I can, let's start from the positive things first. for me, the greatest achievements, it's like, again, it's like a class of things. When things that I've been working on, the things that I've been part of, they change not just the life of the group of people for good, but for example, in terms of the company, it changed mindset. It's basically you, with your help, with your effort, your team and your product, they push something in a completely new level. I didn't have such success like big, well-known game changers like iPhone, for example, but in boundaries of the company or in boundaries of the client company, I had a number of such successes. Unfortunately, I will not be able to share some specifics and details, but it was typically about like people done something many years in one way, and you can bring an idea, bring a prototype, build a product, they start using completely different way, and they change the way how they work with this particular product, with this domain area, and they apply the same ideas to other areas. And in terms of failures, I have some regrets in terms of it was not exactly product, but I missed some opportunities to work with some great products as a product manager, as a product designer. And now these products, big success stories on a global scale. I will put it this way.
So you just regret that you haven't continued to work with them?
No, I just, like priority, you switch from one thing to another, but it's a life. This is how it happens. So one day you just think that one thing is more important to you. That means that you probably didn't have a chance to see that this will be like much bigger thing, and more important, not just much bigger thing that you will love in years. And when you realize that you could be a part of this from the start, yeah, kind of fail for me.
Well, yeah, I guess it's just, missed opportunities is not a failure, I think. But in general, I would add, like, very recently we were working on a project that was supposed to raise activation and product, and so we launched like the first iteration. Metrics didn't change. We upgraded it again, no changes. We upgraded it again, no changes. It's like these are the type of failures that happen all the time, but this is not like super prominent, but we invested quite some time and we didn't get anything. And for successes are never something that you did alone. It's always a team effort, and like in the successes that I've been a part of, that were always driven by multiple teams in the organization, if not the entire organization. It's just that you played an important role in it. Like, for example, when we in PandaDoc, when we started rolling out our new editor, I was like on the edge of this initiative, but it's like it was the organizational effort. So I'm pretty happy that was a part of the success, but it was not just me. And yeah, the same, like last year we were working on activation too with a whole bunch of different projects, but it also was the marketing team and it was the growth team that were also participating in this, and together we kind of improved it twofold. But you can't tell who did the best job there, or whose investment was the biggest.
You told a lot about the challenges that you have. Just spill the beans. What helped you to cope with these challenges?
Nick, do you want to go first?
Okay. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I wanted to add it to the thing that Mike just mentioned, that reflections during the day, during the week, etc., helps a lot. Not just to deal with the failures, but to improve yourself in terms how you will react on positive and negative things in future. So, like, for me, it's important at least once a week to think, what can I do better, or what can I do different even more important. It's not always about better or worse. It's about how you can change the way you work, what you do during the day. And one of the things, obviously, that happens with you during these ups and downs, your level of energy. So where we can find an inspiration and energy. I would say that one of the key important skills in our industry and product management in particular, to stay healthy. It's how you invest in your physical activities, your lifestyle, what you eat, how you eat, and
just didn't we discuss that we are eating on the table during the meetings? Okay.
Yeah, I eat during the meetings, but I try to prolong, not for 2 minutes, and have a normal course of food, and get positive energy from people that matters for you, from your family. It's a very important thing, and I believe this is where my work and my life really blended, because obviously my life is more important than my work, but in the same time, when your closest people can understand the importance of work for you, they very kind to you. So no punishment almost when you work late hours, when you work during the weekends and holidays. Because, as I mentioned, product management, it's like your own small business. And when you run business, you don't have an excuse like, oh, it's a holiday. It's a great, then you can organize, but a lot of things could be unpredictable. So it's important to realize that, yes, work is important, but the way how you blend this, even more important.
I agree. Dara, do we want to talk about the challenges at work too, in general? What type of challenges we have, or is it?
In general, any challenges and how you cope with that?
I mean, there are a bunch of different challenges. Yeah, I'm not going to add to what Nick talked about, like with work-life balance and everything, and making sure that you're at your best performance. Overall, I'd say that what I've seen is, when you work at product, one of the things that you have to accept is, more often than not, it's almost impossible to impact business metrics directly, like just generating new MRR right away, or like influencing promoter score of your product, but rather you're working with some proxy metrics, right? And when you're working, you're setting targets for these metrics. But the thing is that when you're working with metrics, it's a different approach than the project-based approach, where you have a clear deadline and you want to deliver something before a specific date. And that often causes confusion in minds of a lot of people, because most people are just used to having a clear understanding of when something is going to be done. And if your target is, let's say, to I don't know, raise the satisfaction of a specific feature or a specific part of a product to a certain level, you don't know when that's going to happen. You just have a backlog of ideas and hypotheses that you need to validate and try. And it's often very hard to fight that kind of project-based mentality where you're asked for, okay, when is this going to be done? And you never know. That's one of the things. I guess one of the challenges for me personally too is that, you always think that you'd be able to do something better than others as a person if you think that this is your area of expertise, right? Especially if you're somebody senior. And as you have more and more on your plate, you have to learn to delegate. And very often, you even delegate to people that are not your reports, because that's how the organizations work. And you need to accept that kind of, the best is the enemy of the good, and that you need to accept good result versus perfect, and help people achieve better results instead of pushing them for some reasons. I don't know.
Thank you. The next question from our audience: what framework do you like and use the most?
What framework? framework. Okay. I guess right now, I'm really fond of the TARS framework from Reforge, which is T is the target audience, A is the activation adoption, R is the retention, and S is the satisfaction, which is just the funnel for any feature or product. And that it's something similar to a part framework, but just very product specific, not including the business metrics that helps you understand and approach improvements in the product. I'd say the heart is a great one too, to improve the overall perception of the product.
Yeah.
Because I work
is great.
Because I work for different type of products in the same time. Somewhere I have a small participation, somewhere I have like a deeper moment. I'll probably name in our list a framework that I admire and like, but my approach to see what kind of set of recipes work here better or not so good, and I just try to reapply hybrid of things, because from my experience, it's almost impossible just to stick with some framework or methodology and run entire projects just like by the book. So for example, if I say that something doesn't work with a specific team configuration, I can help, I can even push, basically to change everything. And if you have a flexibility, it's much more easy to reconstruct the way how you work in real time. I will put some specific examples with a reference to my past experience and industry examples, how people like well-known stories.
Okay, great. How do you work on your growth?
Personal growth?
Personal growth, yeah, but in professional sphere, of course.
All right, sure. I mean, first of all, I primarily prefer learning by doing, just taking on new challenges that I believe will deepen or widen my skill set where I think it's important. I guess the next thing I really like is just building connections with people who I admire or who I think are really good in their profession, and just connect with them regularly. Maybe even once in a month, have a conversation for a few hours where you just discuss what's going on in the market and what kind of things they have learned. This is very helpful in finding things that you would never find on your own. Also, Twitter is a great tool to get inspirations. Yeah, I've adopted very recently, to be honest. I'm not like a social network person, but with the help of the previous point, I got help from other people who are to build this type of environment on, say, on Twitter that will just help you get these inspirations coming and different thoughts on product. And also, yeah, more traditional things like just taking a Reforge class right now on the product strategy, and yeah, like taking a simulator course or whatever you think is important for you right now. What's going to help you? It's going to help you get better at what you're doing now. I think it's critical, the first point that I said, to make sure that you can apply your knowledge right away or within a few months.
Thank you.
Yes, a lot of things, of course, similar, and this is almost a golden combination. Some specifics that I wanted from my end, it's like I differentiate improvements like local and global, or like small improvements and bigger improvements. Small improvements when I receive new insights from social media, from people that I follow, from your peers, and more important, that you're ready to apply the things. So even if somebody that you probably don't know, but you see some value in it, it's important to be ready to apply something new. And for many people, as a matter of fact, it's not so easy to start doing things different. All big changes, from time to time, I take different courses. Even if I don't have a time to complete the entire course, I try to at least go through most important parts or chapters of the course and take some insights. But It will works better when you go from start to end, even you already know the entire content. Why it's important? Because when you do a practice, it's one thing, but very often you can just skip a lot of things because you don't apply them in your active products, in your current activities. But they could be important for your next thing, and you simply will not be ready. So it's like, I don't know. A lot of things happening, for example, like in sport, you have to do a lot of trainings. So basically, when you do a lot of trainings, you're ready for the next bigger challenge. So when I select a specific course, I try to learn not something that is very popular just today or a year ago. I try to invest my time in some fundamental things. And very often the things that's not just a pure product management course. I learned things like system analysis, theories of games, and many other things like that. So it helps.
Great. And maybe some last courses that you liked the most.
Yeah, as I said, the latest is Reforge. I think almost anything there is really good. I'm going through a product strategy right now, which is good. We have other people who've went through their growth programs, and I think it was a retention engagement course. I don't remember exactly what the name is, but all of them, all of the courses that I've seen are very structured, very high quality. I couldn't recommend them more.
The very last thing, it's not like an entire course, but videos that I watched, it was from product management from UCLA, because they collect greatest professionals, like not just great theory persons, but like they have top tier professionals from all large companies in the world, and it's very applicable knowledge.
Thank you. And the guys also asks you, what your work activity take the most time?
I mean, for me right now, it's my time is split almost equally into 3 portions, where one piece is like product strategy and working with our data and research. Second piece is mentorship and team development. And the third piece is stakeholder management, essentially managing up and down and across the organization. That's, yeah.
I have kind of, I try to draw kind of a gradient. R&D strategy, hands-on contribution, and everything else I just call communication. When you have to deal with the teams, when you have to deal with the stakeholders, and so on. And I would say communication still, probably it's not the largest portion if we check the calendar, but definitely that it takes a lot of energy, more than I want.
I'd say that this is a split that I get now when I have like 5 product managers reporting to me. But when I was an individual contributor, definitely it was different. I'd say it was like the customer communication and stakeholder communication would take up like 20% of my time. And then 10% is like mentorship of, let's say, junior product manager. And then the majority of my time is actually time working on specifications and research.
Continuing on working with stakeholders, we have a question. How do you manage stakeholder conflicts?
Well, I guess it really depends on the type of a conflict. There's no general rule. It's like there's this whole theory behind the types of conflicts that can appear. I mean, let's maybe get an example. But if we talk about something like a feature that you want to develop and different stakeholders get a different vision, you have to align them as a product manager.
I believe it will be the last question for me. Unfortunately, communications take part after this moment. Thank you, everyone. But first, I will answer to the question. There is no unified recipe, but couple strategies that I use. Strategy that I don't like, but sometimes the only thing that you can do, find even bigger hammer that will fit all conflict parties. And in this case, they will not worry about the conflict regarding what you want to achieve. It's like almost last resort situation. The ideal situation for me when I negotiate with the people and find the common ground, and probably I can move discussion in a different space where all parties will have their own benefits. But there is no ideal deal when everyone wins. The good deal when you win and you lose. It's all about the combination, how much you're ready to lose. And some people ready to lose less, some people ready to lose more. And this is a tricky part. You need to find what kind of trade-off you can negotiate. But from my experience, it's almost impossible to find the situation when you have only positive for each party. More likely you will have a big hammer that will down to all the heads. That's it.
Yeah, I'd add to it that, more often than not, I've seen these type of situations arise when the goals of the stakeholders are different. And obviously what you want to do as an organization is look for compound effects. As Nick said, like but as Nick said, somebody will always lose something, but what you're looking for is not for somebody to win more, but for the organization to get more. And so if you see that that's something that you can do together will lead to greater success of the company overall, then that's how you prove it, and that's how you communicate with others. And if the goals are totally different, maybe just the moment is not right, and you can communicate this and lay it off until next time. But yes, as Nick said, the big hammer or the administrative resource is something that you can use, but it's definitely the last resort. It's not something you want to use in general.
During the session, we discussed a lot of things around your personal development, around working with the team, with stakeholders, doing researches, life, I don't know this word, even work-life balance. And the main question, how do you manage to do all these things? Do you have any secrets?
No secrets. I think I've partially answered this previously, but mostly you get your time back by delegating and prioritizing. I think that the best thing you can do, and that's why my day starts with reviewing the plan for the quarter and for the week, is because you look for the things that really matter. And very often you'll have some meetings or some activities that are on your list that you feel like are needed, but they're not a priority. Typically what I would do, I would just delete them, delete the meeting and delete the item from my list. That's the first thing.
You're a great person.
It is super hard. It's just hard to tell yourself, okay, I'm just not going to do it, and tell everyone else that you're not going to do it. And then the second piece is delegating. And there, the two key notions there is, even if you don't have direct reports, you don't think you can delegate something, that's wrong. You can delegate to people who are not your direct reports, because they would be willing to help you most likely for different reasons. It could be people who just are looking to grow in that area and they want to do something, and so you can save your time by delegating something to them, or you can just have a dedicated person from another team who will do it, or somebody on your team.
Thank you a lot. And I see that we have no more questions in the list, but I think that it would be really valuable to give some advices to our listeners who are still thinking about these two opposite sides when you have really interesting work, but some worry that it can be exhausting? What to do? How to select whether I want to be a product manager or not?
I think it's always best to try and then blame yourself that you didn't pick the best rather than not try, because that's gonna last for entire life.
Great. I think that is the best finish of our discussion ever. Thank you a lot, Mike, for great communication and for your useful tips and honest answers. And dear audience, it's 5-minute break, and then see you on our special featured talk with the author of Business Design Canvas. See you. Stay tuned. Thank you, Mike, once again. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.